Hi, welcome to my channel. My name's Joe. Today I'm going to show you my kayak shed, and basically it's just a shed I made for my kayak, but what makes it unique is it's also a raised bed garden. I use it to grow vegetables, and the way I do that is I made the roof of it a raised bed garden. So I'll show it to you. Unfortunately, it's not a build video because when I made this, it was before I ever started doing YouTube videos. However, it will give you some ideas, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. Okay, let's get to it. So this is my kayak shed. It's 4.5 feet wide and 16 feet long. The kayak inside is nearly 14 feet. It's about 13 feet 6 inches. All in all, this project, you can do it in a weekend if you've got the time. I think it took me 2 weekends because I was pretty much doing it myself. But it's a pretty quick project. There's really nothing to it. These are pressure treated 2x4s right here, and the whole thing rests on I got two 16-foot 4x4s, and that's what the base is, and all this rests on top of the 4x4s, and the 4x4s are resting on top of some concrete blocks that I bought at Home Depot. As far as the soil, when you're doing a project this large, I would recommend going to a there's some places nearby that sell rocks, soil by, you can take a pickup truck and they do it by the I forgot how they do it really. Cubic yards, I think, is how they measure it, and you can take a pickup truck there, or you can what I did was I took a trailer, and you can put a tarp in a trailer, and they'll just basically take a little they have like little tractor there with a digger on one end, and they can just scoop it up and put it right in the back of your trailer or your pickup truck. But basically you can buy the potting soil that way. It's cheaper than buying dozens and dozens of bags at Home Depot. And then you can buy the vermiculite and any type of peat moss that you want to mix in with it. And that's what I did. I just bought the soil, bought my own vermiculite, bought my own peat moss, mixed it in, and mixed it in with several bags of manure. These big rocks here, you see, those are manure. And I also make my own compost. These are my compost bins. I built that as well. I went and bought the barrels for $20 each at a place nearby which sells food grade barrels. You don't want to get barrels that were used to transport chemicals, because this soil, once it's finished baking, cooking in the sun, you're going to end up putting it right into your garden, which is going to go into your vegetables, which you're going to consume. So you don't want to have anything that was transporting chemicals going into your soil, going into your vegetables, and then going into your mouth and consuming it. because that could be cancerous. So we got food grade barrels, and I think ours was used to carry some kind of candied syrup, because when we got them they smelled really, really sweet. I almost didn't want to clean them out because they smelled so good. For the shed portion, which is the base, the bottom here, I chose 1x6 pressure treated wood. These are each 8 feet long. There's one here, goes down here, butted up to another 8-footer. Like I said, it's 16 feet long. So this is 1x4 pressure treated wood. And I chose to alternate the planks. There's one on the outside, one on the inside, then one on the outside. And I did that so that it would have air, some airflow in there, because when I do put away my kayak, I go in the ocean and I fish in it, and I come back, I rinse it off, so it's going in there wet, and you know, there have been fish in there and stuff like that, and I don't want it to smell, and so I want to air it out, let it dry. So that's why I alternated the planks, one inside, one outside, one inside, one outside. And for the garden portion, which is the roof, the top, I chose 3/4 inch by 6 inch cedar. And the reason I went with cedar and didn't just use the pressure treated is I was afraid of the poisons that are in the pressure treated wood leaching into the soil. I didn't want that to get into my vegetables, and so I got cedar wood. Cedar has natural oils which resist rotting, and it resists insects. That's why I went with that. And I probably would have been safe even if I would have used the 1x4 pressure treated wood, because I did put in a liner. So you can see here, there is a liner. It goes, I mean, it's visqueen, and it's pretty sturdy. And I put that in there so that when I water and the water goes down, it won't keep the wood wet and soak into the wood. And so I probably could have, you know, this probably would have stopped any leaching that would have happened, but I just wanted to play it safe. And it was more expensive to do the cedar, significantly more expensive. This raised the project several $100s just by going with cedar. But you know, better safe than sorry. Okay, so that's the inside of the kayak shed. Here, let me give you a better look. That's the inside of the shed. And this is a 13.5-foot kayak, and it's got 16 feet of space. So I mean, there's plenty of room in here for this. And I lock it up so, you know, hopefully no one comes in and steals it. But what I did was I took some 5-inch pipe and some PVC pipe. Watch out, baby. And I cut little sections of the pipe. I cut the pipe in half, and so you had the half moon sections, and I put them every few feet apart. I think it's every 3 or 4 feet. I put them down, and what that does is, and I left the opening here, opening in the middle, because you know you have the V-hull. This is an ocean kayak, so it's got a little bit of a V-hull. So that way the V will line up, the bottom of the V, the point, will line up inside the space there. And then what this does is it's plastic on plastic, and it'll just slide in, and it slides in like butter. I mean, it really does slide in quite easily. So if you're choosing to build one of these, I would recommend doing that, because sliding the plastic on the wood, it just rubs and it doesn't slide as well. But the plastic on plastic makes it slide pretty easily, and I can do it with one hand, slide that sucker in, because this is a heavy kayak. Without the chairs, without any equipment, it's 100 pounds. So it's a pretty big, and I'm disabled, so it's a little hard to move. But that makes it a lot easier. When I built this, I purposely built this, the top part, the garden part, at 14 feet. So actually it's a little less than 14 feet. Like I said, it's 16 feet long for the kayak part, the kayak shed part. The garden part I purposely built a little bit short. That way it gives me a little working area, sort of like a table. I've got one in the back and one in the front, and this allows me to set my water pot here. And then I made a little chest here, storage chest, where I keep my food. This here, I'm not kidding, this is the best plant food I have ever used. And I'll show you what I do when I use it. But this stuff is great. I've had such good success with this. And the first year when I started, I wasn't using this stuff. And then because I wanted I wanted safe plant food. I didn't want, any bad fertilizers or anything like that. So I did a lot of research, and then I found this stuff, and it had good reviews, so I ordered it. And then I used it this year, and I have had such bountiful plants this year, so such growth. It's been awesome. Dr. Earth, I use Dr. Earth products for insects. Last year I was growing butternut squash, and I started getting large butternut squash and some watermelons, and they were just about ready to harvest. And then all of a sudden I started getting worms that were crawling through and burrowing holes into my vegetables. And so I went out and got this, and that took care of the problem. Unfortunately, it was too late. But what I did this year was I started spraying the plants before I noticed anything like that. And this year I've had no problem with insects at all. The insects I found that were doing this were these moths, and they would go underneath the leaves of my zucchini and my squash and make cocoons. And the caterpillars that came out of those cocoons, that's what was burrowing through my veggies. But anyway, I've got, pruning shears, a couple little pots, some tools, and basically this is my little storage area. So when you're watering your garden, you don't want to have too much water just sitting around after you're done watering and puddling up. It can cause root rot, and it can kill your plants. So, if you wanna be having nice, healthy vegetables, then one of the things that's important is drainage. And so for me, since it's sitting in this plastic, how's it going to drain? Because water won't go through the plastic. So what I did was I created these drains here. There's one here and two down here. And same as the other side, there's three on the other side. Basically, there's an opening at the very bottom, and it's like a little cap that's in there, and it's almost like a drain in a tub, and that goes through underneath the flooring here, which is the roof of the kayak shed, is the flooring of the garden. So there's a a drain that's in the bottom here that this is connected to, and then it just comes out and runs out and just goes into the yard. That's one thing that's good about having a raised garden bed, is you can control the drainage. Whereas in the ground, you really can't control that. If you get a heavy rain, that rain's going to sit there and puddle, and you know, that you could have a plant that's got a lot of vegetables on it and doing well, and you get a heavy rain, and that water just sits there and rots the roots. Next thing you know, those veggies are dying and your plant's dying. So it's nice to have the drainage, and I like that. I like that the raised bed allows that. Another thing with this style, where I put the vegetable garden on top of the kayak shed, not only is it raised, but it's raised, you know, kind of high, more than a typical raised bed. This is 41 inches tall, so when I come here and work, you know, this is waist high for me. You know, so there's no bending over. Everything's right here. I mean, it's just, you know, it makes gardening easier and more enjoyable. And the reason I made this as wide as I did, this is 4.5 feet wide. The reason I did that is because on average, you know, we get about 2.5 feet of reach with our arms. That way there's no stretching. If I want to get in the middle, it's easy to get in the middle. If you make this a little bit wider, let's say you make a 7 foot wide or 6 foot wide garden, yes, you can add an extra row and have 3 rows. However, it's a little more difficult to get into those rows. You have to stretch, you know. So this is perfect for me anyway. At 4.5 feet, I can do 2 rows and just fine. And if I do add anything in the middle, which I've done before, it's not hard to reach those and prune those. This year I went light with my planting. Last year I planted a whole bunch of stuff. I had watermelon, cantaloupe, squash, cherry tomatoes. This year I decided to go with a row of tomatoes and a row of summer squash. So on the left I have zucchini and crookneck squash, and on the right I have beef tomatoes, you know, the beefsteak tomatoes, and cherry tomatoes. Okay, so I said I would show you what I do when I use this liquid food. It's called Drench for Growth. These are the ingredients here. And basically what I do is I add a little splash into my watering can. Then I fill the watering can with my rainwater. And I drench the root like it says to do. So shake it up. And I'm doing this one-handed, so hopefully I don't spill it. But I add a little bit, not too much. And it's a dark brown, looks like that betadine. I come over here and I have rain barrels set up over here on the side of my shed. You know, one side collects water, the other collects water. So what I do is I'll set this down and then turn on the water and just fill it up. And these rain barrels, my wife and I got free. If the city puts on a seminar and they talk about rain barrel and the importance of using rainwater, and they also talk about rain gardens. And it's a 2-hour seminar, and if you go and attend the seminar, they'll give you the rain barrel free, and it's already got the spigot installed, and it's already cut out at the top for you and everything. So we attended the seminar, and they actually had a couple rain barrels left over, so they actually gave us 2, so we got 2 free ones. So, and these things are great. I mean, we use this water a lot, and it takes a long time for it to run out. Actually, we've never run out, but it takes a good while for us to go through 50 gallons. But this way, you know, if we use water from the hose, it's chlorinated, and we've noticed last year we were using chlorinated water, and this year we're using only rainwater, and we've noticed a lot more vegetables this year. Bigger vegetables, they're growing faster. It's just been a lot better. So we fill it up, and then just come and we drench it. Let that soak in. And that's it. And I do this once every, I would say 3 weeks. I do the food. I water once every other day, but I do the liquid food once every 3 weeks. And I usually will do 2 cans worth. So that's my kayak shed. I hope you liked it. I'm sorry that it's not a build video. Like I said before, I made this a couple years ago, and I just recently started doing YouTube videos. So this thing was made before I started doing the videos. Otherwise, I would have done a a build, a how-to. I wish I could give you a price on how much this costs, but I can't remember. But hopefully it gives you an idea. If you want to save space, you need some storage for your boats, your kayaks or your canoes. You can always add a garden on top of it if you ever want to do a raised bed gardening and have both and save space. All right, well, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. See you next time. Bye-bye.